You are listening to the Screen to Screen Selling Talk Show hosted by Doug DeVitri, your source to increasing sales, productivity, and the customer experience. In each show, we will sit down with world-class thought leaders to discuss latest trends, innovative concepts, and ideas to keep you ahead of the curve using the latest technology. Welcome back, everyone, to the show. Very special guest, and it concerns immigration, travel, work visas, whether you should do it or not with all the latest technology. We have one of the world's most sought-after experts when it comes to this topic, Angelo Paparelli. Welcome to the show today.
Nice to be here. How are you, Doug?
I'm great, thank you. And we had met at a global speakers conference, and that was one of the issues of trying to get across the border in Canada.
Right.
And I've a lot of business in Canada, and you definitely helped me provide some tips in doing that. One of the things I want to talk about today, though, is really how technology has changed immigration law, how companies should approach it. What are some of your thoughts regarding that?
Well, companies have to understand that governments have gotten better at linking databases. It used to be in the old paper world that someone could cross a border and their record of entries and departures would never be known. But today, in most countries have a very high-tech way of admitting or refusing admission for people who want to come across their border. And they also have ways of requiring airlines to send electronically the manifests of passengers who are about to land, so you can be assured that your arrival will be telegraphed in advance to the immigration inspectors. So that's not the only use of technology, though. Technology is also important because increasingly global teams of technological experts, IT experts, consulting experts, have to cross national borders in order to work face-to-face or to attend business meetings. And companies need to understand that we're living in a very different world. It used to be that the so-called stealth business visitor could enter a country, say I'm coming for a business meeting, and then begin to work without a work permit or visa allowing that. But today, they can be very thoroughly grilled as to their purpose. What they need to do is understand that there are certain requirements that each country will have. Often they're similar, but the procedures are very different to obtain them. A number of websites will offer some guidance on the ability to know in advance if you're going to a particular country A for purpose B, whether you need a visa or you can enter as a visa waiver, whether it's a special kind of visa such as a work visa, how long it can last. And usually these are nice as general impressions, but you can't avoid consulting with a competent immigration lawyer in the country of destination. Fortunately, I've been able to form an international alliance of immigration lawyers called the Alliance of Business Immigration Lawyers that have members all over the place. We have 40 members by invitation only, and we publish a global newsletter every month that people might find helpful. So that's www.abil.com. But in addition to that, you really have to make sure that the company that is sending you and the office or affiliate or client.
I'm sorry, please continue.
You want me to start over?
No, keep going.
Okay. You have to understand that the company that's sending you or the host receiving entity, whether that's an affiliate of your company or a customer or client, have to be aware of what the undertakings they're engaging in, because they can commit criminal violations, as can the individual. And one thing I've learned for sure is that being in custody, being in detention in any country, including the United States, is not a pleasant experience. You have very few rights when you cross an international border, so you really want to be well prepared. Also have to understand that today it is not unusual for the inspecting officer to ask to see your notebook, your iPad, your smartphone, your thumb drives, and ask for passwords and see what's on it. They also have access to criminal records, arrests and convictions, often in countries all over the world. And so you really need to understand that you're taking a risk. If you don't want those kinds of digital tools examined, then it's best not to carry them across a national border. But unfortunately, at least in the United States, it hasn't been interpreted that you have a constitutional right to be free from digital searches at the airport.
Well, great. Well, what does that mean to? Well, I know being detained is one thing. You have a business trip and they hold you in custody and you can't leave until they tell you can go. What are some of the other consequences, maybe expected or unexpected, that might happen if they wanted to do more?
Well, let me tell you what the U.S. does, and many countries are similar. They have a process where they can decide right at the border that if you are permitted, this is a privilege, not a right, are permitted to withdraw your request to be admitted in the visa category you're seeking, they can cancel your visa stamp, which means you have to go back to a consular post abroad and explain why it is that they didn't believe you were worthy of entrance. But worse than that, they can issue you an order of what's called expedited removal. And that means you're essentially deported and you can't return to the United States for 5 years. They can also assert that you make material and willful misstatements to them and put that in your record, and that can be a permanent bar unless you can get a waiver on appropriate grounds. So you really want to be clear on why you're going there. You should have some evidence to demonstrate your lawful basis to be given entrance. And I say dress for success. I mean, if you're on a long international flight, give yourself a shave before you, if you're a man, give yourself a shave before you are crossing that border. And, freshen up, wash your face, put on a nice business suit or jacket, and ladies can have business attire. And you're going to be treated more respectfully than if you come in with torn jeans and a T-shirt. So it is always true that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. So this is not the time to start venting and insulting the officer at the port of entry, because they have the power and they can make your life miserable, not just the present moment, but long into the future.
Well, it's interesting. We can travel or not travel, right? And a lot of business situations, you have to get on an airplane to visit your customers. Some situations you can work remotely, very similar to how we're having the conversation right now. What would you suggest for companies that are starting to use this type of technology to communicate and deliver value to their customers? Do they need a work visa to work from their office or from their native country, or what are the regulations regarding that?
Well, that goes into some ambiguities, and again, each country is going to be different. But usually, every country of the world allows its citizens to engage in lawful employment, and so if you are a citizen of the country where you're remotely participating through digital means in a meeting, that should be no problem. If you're a permanent resident with lawful status, that should be no problem. But if you entered, let's say, as a tourist to go see Disneyland, and now you're participating in a business meeting that is going on in, let's say, England, France, China, that's a gray area of immigration law, particularly if they send you some money to cause you to do that. And what's the money for? Is that a reimbursement of expenses, or is that a salary or stipend? So those are the kind of questions that are asked. It's hard for the government to regulate this because they can't know what's going on. Well, they can know. Edward Snowden has showed us that they can know, and a lot of other revelations since then. But they have not to date punish violations of unauthorized employment by participating in digital meetings.
Yeah, it's interesting. That might be even be a good question for an international accountant to decide how the monies are being transferred to make sure that they're protecting.
You're right. It's not just immigration law. It's international tax law, and it's also international employment law. Those three areas of regulation go hand in hand when you cross national boundaries.
Yeah, great. So what would you recommend, let's say, for a company who's looking to maybe go a little bit more remotely from what they've done traditionally face to face? How would they cut back with their travel? Is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? How do you see the evolution?
Well, they're not going to cut back. This is a business imperative that they have to see their customer or their prospect. And so the question is, get some counsel as to what it takes for that purpose. If they're going to start a new office in another country or a subsidiary, find out what the requirements are. Some countries do not allow you to open a business unless you have a citizen of that particular country as a stockholder or as the sole stockholder. And so you really have to get some counsel on how you do this. And obviously, if you're just at the beginning of setting up an operation in a foreign country, you're going to face one set of concerns. But let's say you've been doing this for several years, and you have to have a way of maintaining compliance with each country. And oftentimes, it's been found that it's far more efficient to have a centralized global headquarters for compliance with global mobility, where there are databases, case management databases that keep track of deadlines, keep track of activities that are allowed, databases that are integrated with the travel agency function, the purchasing of tickets, so that the employer, the company knows when people are leaving. They get an early warning that they've made a reservation to go in a particular country. And before they leave, they inquire, what are your circumstances? Do you have the right paperwork? Some people, unfortunately, jump the gun. They sell all their belongings, or they pack up all their belongings and ship them with their children, and foolishly say, we're going to visit, an amusement park in the United States, and the government has the ability to see that you've just sent through customs, because customs and border protection include the immigration function. They've seen that you've just sent a shipment of belongings, and so that's contrary to what you're saying. Yeah. So companies really have to take control of it, and usually they will have one law firm or an alliance of law firms that will have expertise on the ground. The preparation of the forms, the capturing of biographic information, that's pretty similar from country to country. But knowing what the procedures are and knowing how each country handles it through which government agency, whether it's in person, whether it's by electronic submission, these are things you really have to have someone knowledgeable about the local jurisdiction and the local area to be entered.
Yeah, it seems like it's just way too much for one person to know, and very situational. That
there are huge teams of global mobility specialists, and there are global mobility organizations or associations that bring together people to talk about these subjects.
Well, great. Well, I'm definitely going to share that link with everyone that you had given me, and also the link to your firm, because you are the go-to expert here in the U.S. And I really appreciate you being a part of the show today for us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed it.
You are listening to the Screen to Screen Selling Talk Show, hosted by Doug DeVitri, your source to increasing sales, productivity, and the customer experience. In each show, we will sit down with world-class thought leaders to discuss latest trends, innovative concepts, and ideas to keep you ahead of the curve using the latest technology.
Are you ready for more meetings in less time with less expense? Screen to Screen Selling has answers. Screen-to-screen selling is the fastest way to increase sales, productivity, and the customer experience. Screen-to-screen selling is a mindset before it becomes a skill set. Let's look at your beliefs.
Or even like join.me and some of the other.
Receive access to upcoming episodes of the Screen-to-Screen Selling Talk Show, special announcements, and insider resources. Devitri.co/screen-to-screen. Order Screen-to-Screen Selling from 800 CEO READ, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Books A Million, and McGraw-Hill Education.